This movie clearly has sad Peter Parker, and sad Peter Parker means we have a Venom story, like pretty much every time. Except with Andrew Garfield, he was too healthy for that. He processed his trauma too well. All right, there's that. There's the Jean Grey of it all. I had never heard of this character before, and now I'm like, I need these comic books yesterday. First of all, this story is bonkers. Getting all caught up on this one, I was like, what in the world? Boys and girls, ladies and germs, here we are. We are about a week away, a little over a week away from Spider-Man Brand New Day. I almost said like all of the other titles because they're so confusing. I don't know about you, but the biggest question I have is, who is Sadie Sink playing? Hold on, I just need to adjust this about 12 more times before I'm satisfied. Who is Sadie Sink playing? I didn't scour the internet. That would be a mislead. But I did check out a couple places on Reddit. I looked around the internet and found that there's lots of hypotheses. There's some that I think are more believable than others. There's some that are just like straight out of pocket, and I'm like, no. So I went through and I made a short list. We got a short list here today of who potentially Sadie Sink is playing in this next Spider-Man film. Who could she possibly be playing? Good gravy, I cannot get this situated. I'm fine. It's fine. We're going through this list and we're going in order from least likely to most likely, according to my self. Just based on the trailers and the vibes, and I'm trying very, very hard not to think of Doomsday and think, oh, who do we think this character is based on future things that are coming down the line? That's not fair and not how this works. That's every time. Okay, real talk. Every time we collectively, as a fandom, MCU fandom community, and we think too far ahead like that, we get disappointed. So I'm trying to avoid that and also trying to hit my mic as many times as possible in this video. Okay, let's start our list. Number one, also least likely, I think, to be who Sadie Sink is playing. This list, by the way, came from just like a Reddit post, a thread thing that I found, and was just beautiful fodder because these were all over the place, and that was lovely to be looking up all of these details and stuff. So I got this list from Reddit, and then I went to my favorite place in the world, all the fandom wiki pages. I love deep diving those things. They're so fun. Number one and least likely is Madam Web. Okay, just okay. Madam Web. Madame Web. Pros. She has some telekinesis, mind control, manipulation power that we see happening kind of in the trailer. I see how we could bend and flex that in the movies to be what's going on. Plus, she has precognition, which will be important with future events. But remember, we're not trying to factor in future movies that we know are coming. We're trying to block that out. It's not going to work, but we're going to try. Cons are for Madam Web. She's fine. she's fine. She's interesting. She's got precognition, and then she is kind of a little bit mystical with the whole web of light and destiny and web of fate and blah, blah, blah. And so she's a little interesting in that way. She's a little nefarious. She's this kind of creepy old lady in most iterations. So, but she's not quite to the power level we see being exhibited in the trailers. Okay. So that's kind of putting her out. Cons also, just more meta cons. Her movie, the Madam Web movie, remember that? That was only 2 years ago. And it flopped so hard. I cannot see fully recasting and redoing this role so fast. I can't see that happening. That just seems too much of a quick turnaround. This one is kind of an easy no. Okay, so I don't think it's her. All right, next on the list, following up the Madam Web theory, it's Martha Maddie Franklin. Kind of the most interesting thing about her is that it would be another spider person. That's it. She may have needed to be first on this list, but here we are. It would be fun to have another spider person, but might be an opportunity to redeem the Madam Web film without the titular character. However, that's the only pro would be another spider person. Nah. Why would you choose this spider person? I feel like it doesn't work. Okay. This character's appearance in the Madam Web 2024 film just 2 years ago. This character in that movie was played by Celeste O'Connor, who looks nothing like Sadie Sink. And I don't think that's the direction we're headed. Can we just say that out loud? I find it hard to believe that they would cast a completely different person so soon. Same as Madam Web. All right, we're moving on. So now we're getting into some more, a little spicy, a little more zesty characters here. The next character that was suggested, Mosaic. I had never heard of this character before, and now I'm like, I need these comic books yesterday. So let me read through just the power abilities of this person. Mosaic's ability is literally not having a physical body and can go from person to person and possessing them. I may be a little bit off on that, but he's got the body hopping thing going for him. Okay, so we see that happening in the trailer of different, like, whoever this entity is can go from person to person and fully take control of their faculties and their actions and all that. While possessing someone, he can see into their mind, their dreams, and possibly even their fears, secrets, and other things. Again, I haven't read his comics. I really want to now, and I need to do it. And that seems to be what's happening in the trailer. We've got body hopping. We've got taunting Peter Parker about, like, oh, I'm gonna go see MJ. Blah, 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 blah. So that's verbally said. So I could see, like, him trying to manipulate Spider-Man in some way, and I could see that happening. Okay, there's just a couple panels that I've seen from the comics where I'm like, okay, I could see him wanting to get his way and being manipulative. Let's be real. Okay. An interesting thing I learned about his power, about Mosaic's power, is his limitation. There's a limitation he has where he cannot possess a person a second time without causing himself pain, which is fascinating. I love that limitation, by the way. Excellent storytelling. That seems to track with the body hopping because it's constantly moving to the next person and not backtracking, So I understand why this name came up. It's excellent. Apparently, the current comic book run that Mosaic is having is also excellent. Also, in Mosaic's comic right now, he has interacted with Spider-Man. I have a picture. I have several. Like, it's a thing. So I'm down. This is awesome. However, in the comics, Mosaic is played by a black man. Now, Mosaic can hop bodies. Yes. It would be kind of gross if the reveal is that Sadie Sink is playing Mosaic, because that just feels really disingenuous. Yeah, I don't like that. So no on that. Another thing is Mosaic is an Inhuman in the comics, and the only other Inhuman we had was Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness, as far as MCU goes. And then the only other Inhuman we've had is Kamala Khan, and she's a mutant now. So they could make him also an X-Men, but they would have changed it in the comics since it's so, like, new, and they would have told him. I feel like that's not what's happening. Mosaic, cool, would love to see him. Don't think that's who Sadie Sink is. Next character. Now, this next character, honestly, is, I think, people looking a lot towards Doomsday and trying to connect the dots between Spider-Man, Brand New Day, and Doomsday. That's really the best I got for this. So the character is Malice. Basically, Malice is evil Sue Storm. So the connection to Doomsday is super, super strong. I see the reasoning. She's basically from another universe and she's evil. Kind of in, like, a mustache twirly way of just like, I'm evil because I'm evil because I'm evil because I'm evil. Kind of how I feel about the Maker, honestly. Like, I'm evil because I can be. That's just so boring. And from the trailer, there's like a giant force field blast thing, which a lot of people have commented looks like Sue Storm's powers. So I understand why this character has come up. Like, yeah, okay, I can see that. Hold on, I'm very thirsty. So that's cool. Con, negative in this favor. Pretty misaligned with the whole body hopping aspect of this person's ability. and kind of feels disjointed with what this movie is dealing with, like thematically. It feels kind of random and it's just not very cohesive with the whole college student missing his friends vibe, and developing new power. Like, it just kind of feels out of left field. I'm sure they could make it work, but like it doesn't feel like it jives. Now, could Malice show up in something like Secret Wars as a fun cameo? Yes, I think that would be amazing. And Sadie Sink is said to be appearing in Secret Wars, so I see where this theory comes from. I don't think there's enough there, though. It doesn't fit. The previous characters have all fit a little bit better because they are Spider-Man characters. They have been involved with Spider-Man to some degree. Malice, not so much. I mean, in a couple of like where she's at odds with the Avengers, just because, he happens to be on the Avengers, but not like Spider-Man specifically. So I'm gonna say no on this one. All right, the next one is really, really interesting. So we have Spider-Queen, aka Adriana Soria, and yes, I'm saying that in that order for a reason. She's crazy, okay? First of all, this story is bonkers. This story that she comes from is wild. Getting all caught up on this one, I was like, what in the world? Okay, so the reason why this name comes up has nothing to do with her. Honestly, nothing to do with this person's character. This person, she's bizarre. She's so bizarre. But in this comic, in this run that she appears in, Spider-Man develops stronger spider powers, which is apparently what is happening to Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the movie. So that's where she comes from. There's really nothing else that I can be like, yeah, that tracks with what's happening in the trailers. No, none of it works. Okay. Like, I see you. I appreciate you. There's other characters from that. I think it's called The Other. I might be mixing two comics. I'm sorry. There was a lot of information. Okay. There's a lot of theories of people pulling characters from the Other storyline where Spider-Man does develop stronger powers and kind of not quite different powers, but just like his regular Spider-Man powers, like level up. People are trying to say Sadie Sink's character is from that story. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, possibly, but there's a lot of weird crap that happens in that story that I'm like, let's not. Like, just, that's a little too weird and a little too trippy for what the MCU has been so far. If Sadie Sink is playing this character, here are the pros to Sadie Sink being Spider-Queen, okay? I'm just going to put them out there, okay? This lady is low-key insane and could be why she's locked up. Apparently, there's, could be, if that is Sadie Sink's character, we see locked up in the trailers, okay? Second, the Spider-Queen's powers come through her connection and manipulation of the web of life. Yes, that one. Third, she wants power. She wants to take over, to be in control of everything, must-touch really bad guy stuff, okay? And the last thing, in her stories, she controls Peter Parker. And his interactions with her in the story result in him getting stronger spider powers, which we do see happening in the trailer. Okay, that's the positives, the things that are in favor of Sadie Sink being Spider-Queen. Okay. Reasons why I don't think that Sadie Sink is playing this character. She's insane. Okay, Spider-Queen is insane to a level that it doesn't really fit, again, with what this film's themes and tones seem to be dealing with. Second, she can use telepathy and telekinesis, manipulating other people, but they have to, apparently, only those infected with insect genes. That's a quote, okay, from the wiki page. I don't exactly know what that means. Apparently it's like a spider gene, kind of like there's an X gene or an inhumanness. There's apparently a spider gene that is neither of those things, but is something else. That's way too complicated. How is she hopping to so many different people? Are all of those people really spider people? Like, that's insane. The insanity is ramping up, and it's just, no. This isn't what we see in the trailer. here's my biggest problem with Spider Queen, where I don't think this is it, is because this would be a wild bait and switch. Super out of left field bait and switch if this is who Sadie Sink is. And I think we would be really upset. I think there would be a large amount of people who would be very upset. So I don't think it's her. I'm sorry. If you're pro Spider Queen, you dream on. Dream on, friend. Moving on to other characters who are cool, but wild and probably impossible. But we're really fun to look up. We're doing with Clack. I'll put his name on the screen. Clack, clack, clack. He's a demon, okay? He's a demonic entity deeply tied to this historicity. Try that again. He's a demonic entity deeply tied to the history of the hand. Now, we have seen the hand in the trailers. So, he doesn't really seem to take a super active role. He's kind of like the man in the chair, but for like the bad guys, which is fun. If this is Sadie Sink's character, that may explain why she's kind of always alone in the trailers. I haven't really seen her in a scene with anybody else, and Peter seems to be in scenes with lots of other people in a lot of the scenes we've seen so far. I don't know. May also explain why the hand is in a prison fight with Spider-Man. Like, it wasn't really clear if he's defending or breaking, like who's breaking in, who, like what's happening, who's breaking who out of where. We don't know. It may be like maybe Sadie Sink is the host of their like patron demon and are trying to get her back. And Spidey is like, no, don't do that. The Hand and Kalach fight Punisher quite a bit in the comics. He's more of a Punisher and Daredevil villain, and Punisher is in this movie. We've seen him. So he has a power to emanate some kind of like dark energy blast that makes people like extra bad and nihilistic, which ties a lot to the Punisher. Here's some cons to that. This seems to be more of a Punisher Daredevil villain, not really a Spider-Man villain. I understand the Hand is here, but I feel like they are really a side, like cool fight scene for sure. But I feel like maybe instead of Punisher helping out Peter, it's the other way around. And this is really one of the lesser villains we're dealing with. I don't really know. I don't think Sadie Sink is playing a chubby demon. I just don't. This seems weird. The power set also doesn't really line up. The level of violence and the theme of violence that comes with this character, which was all over everywhere, like that doesn't really seem to be what's going on in this movie. So I feel like this one doesn't really fit. Would really fit in like a Punisher movie. Put him in with like the Hand and, you know, a Punisher Daredevil team up. Throw Mephisto in there for a good measure. That'd be fun. Anyways. Okay. So the next one that it's like cool. Also, no. So is Shadow King. Shadow King, I believe, is technically a mutant. It's complicated. Okay. So Shadow King is cool in a bad guy kind of way. Alias the Spider. So we've got Spider vibes, but not really a spider person. So let me read what I collected. The Shadow King is a power from the beginning of consciousness, a primal darkness spawned by the first nightmare. First of all, yikes. Thematically, works with a lot of the vibes of titles over the past several years getting darker. We see Peter's in a bit of a lonely, dark spot the past 4 years since the debacle of the last movies. And so Shadow King, I could see, you know, I see the reasoning for this. Okay. Is this Sadie Sink's character? Technically, he has a great use of telepathy through his existence on the astral plane. All right, here's the rub. This character feels really out of place in this movie. This character could have showed up in a different movie where we're dealing with more mystical stuff. I think that works. But technically, the Shadow King isn't a person. He is an entity that dwells on the astral plane, and then has a host body. The host body in the comics at the moment, I believe, is a mutant. I don't know details. Just follow me, okay? The Shadow King possesses a person and then that person does its bidding. Something we see Sadie Sink's character supposedly doing in the trailers, okay? So it could be Shadow King because Shadow King can then influence others, but he can only do it through the astral plane. And I mean, Peter has been to the astral plane per Doctor Strange. So he is aware of it. He could, therefore, with his smarts, be able to track somebody hopping body to body through the astral plane. That's entirely possible. Again, is this Sadie Sink's character? I don't know. All right. Okay, that was all the pros in favor. Now those against. It's a bit of a mishire. I'm just saying it. She's a bit misleading. If this is the character she's playing, hiring a skinny redhead to play a character typically played by a very large Middle Eastern North African man, excuse me, like kind of weird. So I'm leaning towards no, just purely based on appearances. Secondly, it's very mystical, and we've already got like the Hand there, who are kind of mystical ninja people, but we're also dealing with really real world stuff. I mean, this character is fun, and maybe he shows up somewhere else. I just feel like it doesn't work for this movie and the vibe that's going on here. A Moon Knight Punisher team up might be fun for this guy to show up in. Get on it, Marvel. Now we're getting into some potentials. Some real potential characters here. First off, we're going to start with Hope Summers. She has the ability to do it. It's the right powers. It's the right look. It's the right age. She looks just like Sadie Sink. That would be great. That's a great casting. Love that. That's been my problem with a lot of these is like it's a miscast. She doesn't, I mean, I hate to say she doesn't look the part of these other characters, but she doesn't. And that's fine. She's allowed. I put this as a con that like she has too much backstory and she's coming from the wrong time. But per the last movie, maybe, and with the whole like incursion thing coming, like maybe that's a bonus. Like maybe that actually works. Like the fact that Hope Summers is from another timeline universe, whatever you want to call it, like maybe it works. However, she's a good guy, for the most part. She's really intense, though. I mean, she was raised by Cable. Can we blame her? But, like, the voice that appears to be Sadie Sink's character, like, talking to Peter is real sassy. And I feel like Hope Summers is, like, intense and, like, harsh, kind of like Cyclops is sometimes, but, like, not sassy. This one's a possibly. I don't know. Second, which I think has more credit to it, Rachel Summers. Rachel Summers, in any context, in all of her stories, is a girl at a time, a girl in the wrong place and in the wrong universe. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. She's got the powers, she's got the attitude, and she's recently in the public consciousness with X-Men 97. Like, wins all around. Pros all around. In the comics, she's often locked up for one reason or another, usually because she's saying, I'm from another timeline. Everyone goes, you're crazy. I'm down for that. That sounds fine. She's got the powers that match what we see in the trailer. She's got the appearance that matches Sadie Sink. Like, just Rachel Summers. Like, okay, sure. Sounds good. Again, only complication, she has a really complicated backstory. Same with Hope. Like, they could make it work and then wipe it all away in Doomsday. So, like, they could. Also, she's usually a good guy, and she's apparently being a bad guy in this. So, I mean, Sadie Sink's character is being pitched as kind of the main villain, as far as we know. Possibly. This one's a possibly. Okay, I think we're heading into the likely territory with our last three characters. This character got moved up. This character was behind the Summers girls, but this character has moved up since Zendaya wore this dress to the Mexico premiere. Excuse me, ma'am? Venom. So the theory is Venom or a symbiote of some kind from the little blob that got left behind from the last movie, which would technically make it not Venom, but one of his children, I guess. So I found one. I was looking at different symbiotes. There's one called Riot, and a symbiote. It could just be this universe's symbiote, which makes sense. And lots of little symbiotes all over the place would explain the body hopping and the sassiness. Symbiotes tend to be real sassy. Riot in the comics had siblings that were all derived from venom. So it was like an experiment where they took a piece of venom and then took that piece and made lots of little pieces and developed those into their own symbiotes. And so they had like siblings and they all like could talk to each other. And the Venom story, the typical like Spider-Man Venom story, kind of feels like what we're heading towards and what is being told, because anytime Spider-Man is sad, he gets venom. It's a thing. It's a pattern in the comics. He gets sad, he gets venom, he fights venom, and then he resolves to be a better person. That's very normal. It feels like it could be the kind of story that this movie, Sadie Sink's character may just be the central symbiote with control of like the hive mind, which has happened. I keep hitting my microphone. Has happened. In the comics several times. I think of like Noel the symbiote god. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. I'm learning as I dive into symbiotes. You can do whatever you want with the symbiotes. It's very loosey-goosey over there. And yeah, we're due for a Venom Spider-Man story with Tom Holland. We're all down for it. And then Zendaya wore the black dress and we're all like, oh, you know, so we're ready. Cons against it being a Venom riot. It's made pretty clear in the trailer that Spider-Man's Spidey sense is the key to everything. And a symbiote's main strength over Spider-Man is that Spider-Man cannot sense him with his Spidey sense. Like, that's one of the main things of symbiotes, is that Spidey can't sense them. And the whole point of the movie is that Spidey can sense Sadie Sink's character, or can sense somebody. So it feels weird. And there's also kind of a thing, misleading casting. Again, kind of a mislead there, because there are very few female symbiotes. Like, there are some. I'm not saying there aren't any. But the symbiotes are kind of violent. Just saying. There's not as many women who bond with a symbiote. This one is hard because it makes me be like, yes, Venom is here, but I don't know if Sadie Sink is Venom. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Spidey gets Venom at some point in the movie, but that may have nothing to do with Sadie Sink's character. That's kind of where I landed with this one, which is like, yes, but also no. So, all right, last two, and these are not the same person, I promise. First, Jean Grey. Jean Grey is kind of where everyone's headed, but I think that's boring, frankly. Okay, it's the most obvious. Sadie Sink's appearance matches Jean Grey. The power that's being shown in the trailers most matches Jean Grey. Like, that's what we think of. Okay, got it. We're heading to some kind of mutant saga. Feels kind of weird to introduce Jean Grey in a Spider-Man film, but her powers of telepathy and telekinesis are unmatched. Hence, Phoenix Force. My thought would be maybe she is swapped with Monica. When Monica hops into her, when Monica Rambeau in the Marvels, at the end of Marvels, like, ends up getting yeeted into the X-Men universe, maybe Jean gets flunked, like they get swapped. And that's how she ends up here. That'd be interesting. Peter Parker seems to be dealing with some kind of mutation in the trailers and is going to Dr. Banner about it. Jean, who has an X gene and knows all that kind of stuff, she would be someone who could help him, you know? So it could be she's starting on like a nefarious side and then they become friends, and that would be great. There also seem to be other anti-mutant characters in the movie, so it could be like starting her as a villain because she's being all sneaky, and then they talk and they work it out, and now there's anti-mutant people coming after her, and now they have to work together. You know, that I like it. That jams. I like it. Having her in this movie would set up the Avengers and X-Men fighting in Doomsday that we see a lot. However, that's where we get into the cons. If Sadie Sink is Jean, I have a question about Doomsday, which I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to, but it's there. So here we are. In the Doomsday trailer, there's a lot of Avengers versus X-Men things happening. And in the comics, Avengers versus X-Men happens over the Phoenix Force, basically. When it comes down to it, they disagree with who should have and where they should be, and the too much power for one person kind of argument, basically. And so if Jean is there, who are the Avengers and X-Men fighting over if Jean's already here? You see what I'm saying? In one version of Avengers versus X-Men that I'm currently reading, it's not Jean who has the Phoenix Force that causes the conflict. It's Hope. So maybe that's what's happening, but like, I think the main thing I have a problem with is like Jean seems really overpowered for this universe. She doesn't super fit with all the other characters that Spider-Man is encountering right now. It doesn't fit, and I don't like that. Like all the other villains that are showing up are like the DODC, Tombstone, Boomerang, Scorpion, the Hand, Tarantula, blah 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 blah. These are a lot of punch and shoot baddies, not really like psychic cosmic power baddies, which is more Jean's forte. So I think there's also a factor that Sadie Sink's age may be a factor against her being Jean. Kind of a minor point, but I just thought she's only 24 and Jean is typically like a more maternal figure for a lot of the X-Men. And like she just is. She's not 24. Like, all right, there's that. There's the Jean Grey of it all. All right, now who I most think Sadie Sink is most likely is not Jean Grey, but I won't be disappointed. Honestly, I won't be disappointed with any of these. Her being any of these people, I won't be disappointed. I'll be like, cool, all right, show me how you do this. But who I think makes the most sense and I would have the most fun with, honestly, Madeline Pryor. Now, Madeline Pryor is a diva. Let's just get this first thing out of the way. She's got the sass. She's got the power. Sadie Sink fits her appearance-wise and all of that. So I got really excited about this. Madeline Pryor's whole like shtick, a lot of it is her issue of Nathaniel, of Cable, and the loss of her child. And that's a big theme since, honestly, Infinity War, but like since Multiverse of Madness for sure. The theme of children and the loss of children, the birth of children and being involved in all the things. It's very important to us right now in the MCU, children, and it's coming to a head because we've got Steve's got a kid and Thor's got a kid, and I mean Spider-Man is a kid in a lot of ways. But like Madeline Pryor, her big plot point of like the big reveal is that she's not Jean and she just had a kid and he is sick and he's got to go and she's real mad about it. So like it tracks thematically. I mean, we've already had one movie about a mom doing anything she possibly can to get back to her kids. I have a theory that seems to be what Doom might be trying to achieve as well. The attitude of Sadie Sink's character seems to be a little bit sassy, a little bit like I am the most powerful, which like Goblin Queen energy. Yes. She's really confrontational. She's talking to Peter about his secrets and demons in his mind, which the Goblin Queen loves to do that. And this is very much like it hits real good. I really like it. But we do have some cons to this being her. Madeline Pryor, again, per most X-Men characters, Madeline Pryor is a character with a very complicated origin story. Yeah, it's a lot. However, we loved her in X-Men 97. So that might be a vote of confidence that like, we know she's complicated, but we just kind of like her anyways. Let's do it. Okay. But the movies are very separate from X-Men 97. They don't have as much time because we're doing a lot of other things in this movie. We don't have time to deep dive into all of her trauma. I'm sorry. We just don't. So I don't know if that's kind of against her. She might be too complicated is kind of the problem with Madeline Pryor, is that she just might be too complicated. Same with Jean. Another thing that I said also with Jean is that Sadie Sink just might be too young to be playing this character, a character who's trying to get her child back. Sadie Sink is 24. I did have 2 kids by the time I was 24, but not everyone's like me. Most people aren't. So like, she seems a little on the young side to be going through like that. That'd be the only thing against it. But she could also just be wanting to get home. Most people want that. So in conclusion, she's probably Jean Grey or Madeline Pryor, even despite all my notes against that. Or one of the Summers girls, Hope or Rachel. I think Rachel actually also makes a lot of sense. We will see very soon, and I'm very excited. And, I'm still super suspicious that a Venom type character is showing up, even if it's not Sadie Sink. Like, I don't know. And I'm really excited to see it. I honestly need to go order my tickets like right now. Let me know who you think Sadie Sink is playing. Did I mention the character you think she's playing? And if not, please let me know. And all that backstory. It's more comics for me to read, more wiki pages to go lose myself in, go down the rabbit hole. I love going down rabbit holes like this. It's so much fun. Until next time, bye-bye.